Hey guys, I'm just going to do a quick rating of every Opus 7 card. I'll talk about them when I need to, but I'm probably going to run through a lot of them pretty quickly because they're not that interesting. But basically, 1 star means the card is awful, will never see play even in like a fringe deck. There's not that many of those. 2 stars is pretty poor, may see some play in like fringe decks or like various like whatever, but it's not that great. And there's quite a few of those. 3 stars is just decent, might fill some slots in competitive decks. It's alright, yeah. A good example of that would be like Miner. The card is actually not like absurd, it's just decent, and it's a decent yellow backup. 4 stars is like good. Like that probably contributes to competitive decks power level. Very solid. Like those are the majority of the cards you see in competitive decks is probably be 4s as well as 3s. And then 5 stars is nuts, insane. Probably it's either effectively a staple or actually like makes a competitive deck. Like a good example would be Starter Pain, or for the staple side of things, something like Wall. But anyway, starting with Auron, I believe. Yep. Give him a 2 because he is Guardian. The Guardians actually suck. And this is just like a worse Cyan. Like it's a bit more expensive, bit bigger, but that's not actually good. You don't want a more expensive blank body like that. And yeah, the Guardians are worse than the 6 characters, so nothing else to say there. Aegis, I give 3 because he is decent Warrior of Light support. Like giving the Warriors of Light Brave is much better than giving Guardians Brave because the Warriors of Light are much better. Warrior of Light, the light one, like the Legend Light one, is actually quite solid with Brave. It's a very good forward to combat with, and it makes the others really good at combating as well. And also this has the acceleration effect on top of that, so you actually get some value when you play this card, and it fits really well with another card, Soul, in the set, which I'll get to as well. So yeah, very decent. If any Fire Warrior of Light deck, this is one of the important cards for that. Red Mage, not 3. Let me remove that. That is a 2. Because it's basically like a conditional Thaumaturge. The deal 1000 damage would be more interesting in Earthwind because it would be able to target Donnaluma. But yeah, it's just kind of like a worse Thaumaturge. It's kind of awkward to resolve reliably. Fritz, I give a 3. This is probably, unfortunately, it's probably the worst of the 3 Wolf monsters because it's fire. That always happens, right? Like, it's kind of unfortunate. All the good summons in fire happen to not be called Ifrit, whereas in the other colors, Shiva and Ramu are the good summons already. So those Wolf monsters are just like inherently better. But anyway, Frit's still decent. It's still like a 0-cost body basically. And you know, at least the all the Ifrits, they do some kind of burn that you can put on top of the Frit, so it can trade up pretty nicely. In Mono Fire in particular, the 2-cost Ifrit that does 7k if you control enough fire characters, that's probably the best one. But yeah, it's really unfortunate, the naming of some of the fire summons. Anyway, moving on to the Ifrit, speaking of, I give this a 2. It's actually decent as one of the EX summons. The fact that it does 8k on EX is good, and you'll probably just be playing this with Frit just because of the Ifrits. Having one that will do some removal on EX is probably the best thing you can do. So yeah, it probably will be in a deck with Frit in it, but it's not what's going to make that deck good. It's just a card you play because you probably have to. Varuna, I give this one a 4. This is one of my favorite fire cards in the set. I think it's a little bit underrated. The fact that it's effectively haste, and you know, 8k Brave on a 2-cost, that is probably enough. Normally vanilla bodies aren't that good, right? But 2 is usually the kind of cost you can get away with a vanilla. And 8k Brave, that is a very solid body, especially when it goes to 9k with Lebro as well. So I actually quite like this card, and it can let you do some nice swing turns. And you've got, in the same color, you've got Jekt, who can enable it without having to get attacks through as well. So yeah, this is one of my favorite fire cards in the set. This Black Mage, this is a reprint. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm going to give it a 2, maybe even a 1. But it's a 2-cost backup, so it probably just gets a 2. Yeah, nothing to say, really. SARS. He gets a 3. I mean, he's such as Phoenix. That's pretty good. I don't know why it's 4-cost, not 3-cost. I kind of do, but, you know, again, that's just fire kind of getting shafted. You know, a lot of EX summons in other colors these days are 3-cost, like Bran, King of Omniscia, all those kind of things. So it's weird that it costs 4, but the fact that it's such as Phoenix is relevant. We haven't been able to do that before that well, in the same color at least, and EX is nice, but yeah, whatever. Samurai, I also give this a 3. I talked about a lot about this in my spoiler video. It's just decent. It's just a decent 2-cost backup from Mono Fire. Jekt, I give him a 4. Obviously one of the better fire cards in the set. It's the first time we have reliable direct damage. Palom does not count. and it's like a 1 cost 9k is very, very good. Like, and it's weird that it's in fire because this helps you when you're behind. It helps you if you're playing a setup deck. It lets you push back once, you know, they go aggressive because you're playing a setup deck. Then you can push back with this Jex, so you get the damage as well as the 1 cost 9k body. So it's actually quite a nice deterrent, or like a safe thing to have when you're getting aggroed. But again, it's kind of weird that it's in fire, because fire tends to be the color that needs to kind of be the aggressor to actually win the game. So, bit weird, but it's still a very solid card. Definitely look out for it. Summoner, this probably gets a 2, I'm pretty sure. Right? Yep, 2. I mean, you're not going to play it right, because it's just a bad Amon, but, you know, it's still like a 3 for 7. Dull something is like, okay. So, like, you know, whatever. Soul. Soul gets a 3. I would consider putting it to 4 maybe if I see the Fire Warriors of Light kind of mini engine pushing a bit harder. So far it's just been decent to me, and like, you know, Aegis Soul is pretty solid, but again, that's just like a different sort of Yang Ursula. The haste is nice, but yeah, it's fine, like decent. Berserker, this gets a 1. Absolutely terrible. I don't even know what. It's a rare as well. This is the second set we've had rare standard units. There's a set of 1 in each element in Opus 4, I think, and now in Opus 7 again we have 1 in each element. And yeah, this card is just so bad. Valgavin, he gets a 3. Almost a 4, but 7k is a bit. Yeah, that's the Fusoya number. So if you're dealing 7k to things, you probably want to be doing it with Fusoya. And Fusoya also pushes out a lot of the cards that 7k would be good against. Although this does hit through Jewel Nabat, which is good. It's just through that. Yeah, like, it's still decent. Like, you know, Monofire, it's pretty good, you know. So yeah, solid. Fang, she gets a 3 as well. I actually don't mind her that much. As a 3 for 7 first strike, almost all the time, that's okay for fire. It's not that hard to get at a haste as well, which is actually a pretty solid body. Like, that's almost like Astinian, the lightning Astinian. So actually, I think it is. I think it's the same thing. Anyway, it's weird that she doesn't get Brave for 6. Like, Brave is not there on the card at all, which is really annoying for the you know, pushing it to 6. It doesn't actually seem that worthwhile because the 3k power is not going to matter much when you don't have Brave. But yeah. Bomb. This gets a 3 as well, I believe. Yep. It's just another kind of damagey, tricky thing, but it is probably better than some of the others because it's very flexible, like very flexible. You know, the 2k from your hand could be quite surprising for some people and really mess up their combat math. And the on-field effect has a lot of potential to kind of manipulate the damages on the board to kind of take out a lot of things at once in combination with other burn effects. And of course, there's with Manasyn Warmech, you can really like tear apart their board with that effect because it's got 2 instances of damage on it. So yeah, it's a very decent card for sure. Meath, I give this a 3 as well. This is actually one of the better 2-cost backups in the set. I really like it, actually. I think it's very decent. The fact that you can get rid of light and dark characters out of your hand is very nice. And the fact that you can discard Yuri with this and then revive it with Latov, because obviously the problem with Latov as a revival spell, even though it's high value, is that you can't normally discard the Yuri for it, so you can't do your usual kind of Lena type stuff. But with Meath, you kind of can, in a way, and that's really nice. And yeah, just being able to toolbox, being able to search any forward in the game, assuming you have the correct costed card, is something that we can't do easily, usually. So that's actually, I would consider pushing it to 4 as well if I see it actually doing some really good stuff. A lot of these cards maybe seem worse in my head just because they're in fire, but yeah, very decent card. Lan, give him a 4. He's quite a high ceiling. Like, this card can actually, you know, push down some boards pretty hard. The fact that his effect chains into itself is decent. The only problem is he's basically tied to on attack as the trigger, and that is the worst trigger in the game because it's the hardest one to get off because the forward has to live an entire turn and then be able to attack and have that attack be worthwhile. So, and it's very telegraphed as well. But like I said, it's some very decent targeted removal that can take out multiple things, assuming you have enough CP and the correct setup. Yeah, definitely high ceiling, a little bit hard to get working, but EX Searcher makes it a lot better as well. Latov, I mentioned this before, I give him a 3 because very good if it goes off, but a little bit harder to get off than some of the other cards. So again, Meath helps it a lot, but yeah, not much else to say there. Lulu, I give her a 3 as well. She's just another solid 2-cost backup. 7k 2 cost is very good for a backup. Obviously, the fact you have to sack one, though, that can be useful for getting rid of additional names of cards that you want to play another one of, or for, like, the case of, say, Thornton, where you get to draw a card. But it's just decent. It's some cool stuff you can do with it, but it's nothing, like, oppressive or anything like that. Rain. I actually give this one a 4. This is one of my favorite fire cards in the set. This Varuna, Lan, and Jekt are probably my 4 top fire cards in the set. I actually think Rain is, like, effectively a 1-cost 6k EX Searcher is really good, like insane. Like, it's a shame that, again, of the Wolf monsters, the worst one is in Fire, which is the one that goes with Rain. So to get the full experience of Rain, you probably want to play it with another color, either Lightning or Ice, with Babliz or Zapped. But yeah, I actually think this card is very, very high value and very, very solid. So especially if we get more Wolf monsters, this is one card to look out for sure. Moving on to Ice, Emperor FFL gets a 2 out of 5. It's a 2-cost backup, and it does something, but not much. You're probably not going to play it, unless for some reason FFL becomes big and 5 costs become big, but whatever. Eduardo, he probably gets a 2 as well. There's like some... Again, the only other Bard at the moment is the Edward Forward, which is absolutely terrible. So the only thing you're going to be doing with this is either Hashmail or Legendary Bards, or the other Bards, but probably Legendary. No, yeah, definitely the other one. But anyway... It's pretty bad. Yeah, Legendary Bards, yeah, because against his job, yeah. Anyway, pretty garbage. This Bard, where's my... This is a 2 as well. Very close to a 3, but the fact is it's 3-cost Ice backup, and 3-cost, like, odd-cost Ice backup slots are ridiculously packed with really good cards, mainly Searchers, but some other cards as well. There's just no room for something like this, which is decent, but you're just not going to be able to fit it in. Sue Chaspel, he gets a 3. Just solid 2-cost backup. Non-targeted Double Freeze is very good in some situations, awful in others when they'll just choose the one that you don't care about. But yeah, it can be quite good for pushing an early aggression where they put one blocker down, you get put this down to get it out of the way, especially Ditaluma. It doesn't target him, so that's solid. But yeah, just solid. And the Gaudi's buff is actually relevant. Gaudi's is pretty decent too, so yeah. Gremlin, give this a 3 as well. And this card is... Actually, I give this a 3 before I saw the bans, but after the bans, this card probably goes to a 2 because it's way harder to resolve reliably. But yeah, at the moment, it's just a decent... Again, it's 2 costs for some reason. They give all the ice cards, like, that go with this card, even costs, so that you can just play them, whatever. But yeah, just solid for that deck until it gets banned. This Black Mage, I actually give this a 4, which may surprise some people, but this is coming from the Vice King Innovator. This card is actually really good in that deck. It's much stronger than the one, like, it's basically the 2-cost Viking, which I hate because that card's terrible. Not terrible, but it's not that good. Whereas this is like that, but with a body behind it. And instead of just drawing one, you draw to discard one, which not only gets you through your deck faster to the premium cards that you want, stuff like Cloud of Darkness, lets you cycle through for Viking to get Layla off. And it also really helps with the Light and Dark cards again. This has a lot of discard effects that help you get Light and Dark cards out of your hand, and this is a really good one. So if you're playing like multiple Nidhogg, or you want to try Sin or something like that, or do some weird crap with whatever, then this Black Mage helps a lot with the consistency in that. So yeah, I actually like this card quite a bit in that deck. However, I don't like that deck that much right now in Opus 7. This Black Mage is a reprint. It's actually decent. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. But yeah. Kefka, I will also give him a 3. I probably won't be playing him in anything, but he's actually not a bad card. The problem is, again, it's in Ice, and Ice cards have a lot to compete with, and this especially is competing with Orphan effectively. They are both kind of like an Ice Lord, but Orphan is just so much better overall. The fact is, you're almost always going to be freezing your opponent's forwards, and that's not so bad, but on a 5-cost 8k is maybe not that good. And then the other effect is not going to happen very often in Constructed, and also, even if you do get it off, it's not that high a reward, because often your opponent won't have a monster, and you're just freezing 1 forward, 1 backup, and that's decent, but probably not worth the effort you have to go through to resolve it. This Goblin, this gets a 2, I believe. Yep. The search effect is not good, obviously, because you're actually just paying 2 CP for nothing, effectively. The discard effect is decent, so that's why it gets a 2. And also, actually, it's kind of funny with Sid Waff. It turns your Sid Waff into a break it, search a monster. And you can do that after you've used it for the 3k. So it's like, yeah, that's okay for like, connecting up your Celuses and your Sid Rains, your last spells or whatever to hit bigger things. But yeah, probably still wouldn't be playing it. The Shiver EX gets a 2 as well. This EX is ridiculously oppressive, but fortunately the actual summon itself is terrible. So it's just a high roll, right? If you play it, you're probably playing the other Shiver as well, and you've got 6 EXs in that case, which is solid, but it does mean you have a bunch of dead cards. Well, you have these dead cards, because they're actually from hand is just awful. But anyway, EX only, woohoo. Junabart, at the moment this gets a 2, until we get more Psychoms. Currently it's only this, and yeah, Groshly have to be in Ice Water, and there are probably just better things Ice Water can be doing with their backups. Obviously you can do, again, cute things like Hashmal or whatever, but that's not deserving of a high rating. Snow, welcome to the first 5 out of 5. This card shouldn't exist. People, when it was revealed, everyone was like, this is ridiculous. Then people are like, oh, skepticism, maybe it's not as good as we think it is. But I actually think it is as good as we think it is. Honestly, this card is very, very oppressive. It means you basically don't have to play any other dull effects in your ice deck. You basically just play the snow and you can have dull on demand whenever you want it. It also means that you're always the aggressor. It basically means your opponent can never block again for the rest of the game, which is really stupid, especially when you've got cards like Genesis, who just attacks through a blocker. Like, you can't just put a blocker in front of a Genesis anymore, because I'll just play snow and attack through it. Yeah, it's very oppressive, very stupid card, and it also enables a lot of, like, the hidden benefit of it is that it enables all those ice effects that have to target dull things, which was kind of their drawback. Now you can just do it on demand, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Very, very, very solid. Ridiculous card that probably shouldn't exist. But anyway. Sephiroth, he gets a 4. Just solid. Quite solid. It's unfair that Ice get another solid legend, but here we are. Yeah, discard 2. And the dull and freeze on attack is probably what makes the card. So it's, it's good when they go to 0, so to avoid its effect, but then it's also good when they don't go to 0, because then you get to use its effect. Special is, +1 CP for you, but it takes cards away from both players, and Ice generally wins in a simplified game state. This Sarah, she also gets a 4. I think she's a little bit underrated at the moment, although I have seen people playing around with her. Basically, she will dull your opponent's entire board on entry. Unfortunately, it is in the way of, it is a targeting dull, so you won't be able to hit Zidane. You, like, Dudaluma will pose issues, and even delete a legendary, I don't know, but whatever. Still, though, you'll pretty much be dulling everything every time you play her. The freezing effect not being tied to a dull symbol is very, very solid, so you can keep things frozen down. She's kind of like Orphan in that way. So actually pretty decent card. Unfortunately, she has the name Sarah. That is probably the worst thing about this card, but yeah, very, very decent. This Terra, she gets a 2. I would like to believe she's better than she is, but as it is, again, 3-cost ice backup. That slot is so packed, and this doesn't even do anything on entry. It does nothing when you play it, and you have to combo cards with it to make it work the way you want it to. It is very nice that we have another category 6 backup in ice, so that you can play a naked lock, and get the discard now, but it's just not worth the investment for this card. This time Mage, he gets a 3, mainly because he's gladiatorable. So if it wasn't a gladiator target, probably be a 2, just not that good. But the fact that you can get this out with gladiator is a pretty big deal, honestly. So it becomes a 3. Babliz gets a 3 as well. Maybe close to a 4 for this one. It's actually on a better than a lot of the other 3s I've talked about. Because Shiver, again, this is the kind of card where if you're on the back foot and this card's attacking you, you basically can't do anything. Either you block it and they get a Shiver, you block it, they Madius you, or you don't block it and it just keeps poking you for damage. And the fact that you can also bring this back with Sid Waff as well, it's just very... I'm going to change it to a 4 right now. I'm going to give this card a 4 now. It's, very, very decent. Again, it's probably just because in my head, these ice cards are being compared to other ice cards. Like, I'm thinking of them in the context of a deck that I would put them in. And, the fire cards seem worse because I don't have a deck I want them in, because the fire decks are not as good enough. Whereas the ice cards seem worse because they have such ridiculous cards to compete with that I don't want to put them in the decks. The deck's already good enough without it. But anyway, very solid Waff monster. Mystic Knight gets a 2. It's just a... Ice Wind is like... a really tricky element combination to work with. It has a lot of things it can do, and this is probably not one of the ones you'll be doing. Yunalesca. Where is that too? Yeah. So, as people have mentioned, she's kind of like a Kuja, but you have to discard summons to do it. The on entry is, you know, obviously better than that. Like, Kuja can't do anything on entry, but this is still like a 5 cost 7k like Genesis if you do it on entry. It's probably a bit too much investment for this to work out. Although it is nice that you don't have to discard until resolution. The Yule, she gets a 3. It's probably better than a lot of people think it is, but it's still not great. It's just fine. You know, you can use it to close a game if there's a very specific forward you will win the game with. Orphan is an example. You can, you know, use it at the end of your opponent's turn and then get that card out and win the game with it. But yeah, the cutest thing you can do with this, by the way, in my head, it's probably never going to come up. But if you're playing an Ice Earth deck and you have Fusoya out, your opponent attacks you, you can use this Yule, put Cecil EX as the second card, Fusoya one of their forwards, and then take a damage. And then when the forward that attacked you hits you, it'll hit the Cecil that you stacked as the damage, and you'll get that EX. You take 2 damage to do that, but you can kill 2 things. Yeah, very telegraphed, but kind of funny. The other funny thing you can do with this is put a card, a forward on second top for Hildebrand, if you have some way to manipulate that card off top of your deck. Again, if you do it on your opponent's turn, it's very telegraphed, but you can have them attack, you know, use this, stack the forward you want, you take the damage, then use your Hildebrand's effect to bring out that forward. But yeah, it's just whatever. Anyway, it's just funny stuff. Lasso gets a 4. Very, very solid. Again, another ice card that they did not need. It's like a Sid Reigns without the discard, but it's much stronger. Kills, you know, just the Fusoya number. But yeah, 5,000 base, by the way, is much better than 4k as well. That actually hits, like, you know, buffed thaumaturges and other, you know, things that are buffed to 5k. Anyway, yeah, solid card for sure. On to Wind, Illyria. Illyria gets a 4 because she searches ridiculous cards, and she's EX as well, and she's a 3 cost. So yeah, 3 cost EX searcher, very, very good. If it searches good cards, then it's, yeah, really good, obviously. Alhanalem also gets a 4 because this card is, because those folds are very good. So this backup just fits nicely into that deck. It's a 2 cost backup, and it has some really good effects that go really well with those forwards. I don't really have to talk much about it right now. I'll talk about it when I get to the other cards. Alexander, this is the second 1 out of 5. This is by far the worst of the EX summons. Yeah, it's just terrible. If you're trying to hit something that costs 5 or more, even on EX, you'd probably just rather play the other Alexander, but you don't play that either, like the 4 cost. But anyway, terrible. Vada, he gets a 4. It's just another mindless win card that costs 0 if you have enough backups, right? That's about it. But yeah, that's good. So there you go. Dancer. That is a reprint again. I'm going to give it a 2 because now you have 6 dancers. You can play a funny kind of dancer deck. Everyone loves that. But yeah. Ranger. Ranger gets a 3. This fits very nicely into Earth-Wind decks instead of Psycho Enforcer. This is much better than it, in my opinion, because it costs 1 less and it kills 3 or less monsters, not just 2 or less. That can be relevant. If there are 3 or less monsters around, there may be, I don't know. But anyway, and the on attack dealing 2,000 is actually kind of cute, the fact that it has an effect on field. That's alright, yeah. But again, you're probably only playing it if you're going to kill a monster. Kelka. Funny card. I'm going to give it a 3, only because of how high its ceiling is. So, it's not very reliable, and to make it reliable, you have to play a lot of bad cards. But, if it goes off, it's huge. Like, basically a negative 1 cost AK if you hit one of the good ones, especially the new Galuf or, you know, the old Galuf or old Zezat. Yeah, it can be, you know, really high roller, but if it whiffs, it's terrible. Anyway. Condor. Condor gets a 2 because basically any game that you resolve this, you probably already won. If you can afford to spend 6 of your CP doing nothing to play this Condor and then still get to 5 backups and have it be able to attack, your opponent just probably wasn't even playing the game, so you're always going to win anyway. Cactuar Conductor also gets a 2. There are way better win 2 cost backups in my opinion. It's actually not bad, honestly, but win 2 costs are pretty damn solid, so this one probably does not make the cut in many decks, if any. Same as Thief. She also gets... Actually, she gets a 1. Even worse than Cactus Arcanine. There you go. Zoo. Zoo gets a 4. I was originally going to put it... So when I first saw it, I thought it was nuts. Then when I originally messed around with it, I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was just decent. But now that I've played a bit more with it, I put it back to a 4 again. It's very cool, very solid stuff you can do with it. The fact that in your hand, at worst, it's a color fixer is decent for sure. But then, of course, you know, you've got some... You can do some big turns. If you play it one turn, then next turn you can play around with like 10 mana, 10 CP. So yeah, pretty cool stuff you can do with it. Look out for that card. Shalinka. She is a 4. Because she goes with Yuri, and Yuri is nuts, and she is also very very solid. The party attack thing is really good. Giving Yuri a spot break, especially being able to hit monsters as well, basically means the engine can do everything. So yeah, you know, and another good card enables Alhanalem a lot better as well, and makes it do more damage too. So yeah, this card's very solid. The whole engine is very solid. Anyway. Chocobo gets a 2. There is some funny things you can do with it. Mainly, you can buff your Gilgamesh or Rumza to get their like extra effects from being decent size. Also, because it's instant speed, this is a 0 cost instant speed buff. You can use it with stuff like Zell to do extra damage on entry. So there's all that kind of weird stuff. But yeah, basically, it's not even good in a Chocobo deck. Honestly, like this card is not a Chocobo. It is a Chocobo, obviously it says that, but I wouldn't treat it as a Chocobo. Other than that it's searchable. Dorgan. I also give him a 2. This might surprise some people, others maybe not. I think the card is way too much effort. You have to put in way too much stuff for not a very high reward. Honestly, like, you know, not only do you have to have it early enough that you're playing backups, you have to draw backups with it. They have to have forwards for you to remove with those backups. And also, if it dies, all that's undone. There's just so many things have to go right for this to do anything useful. But anyway. Nash. He gets a 2 as well. He is an EX, and if one cost forwards become more popular for some reason, then this card becomes a lot better. Again, for monsters of 2 or less, that is actually decent. If the main deck that wanted it wasn't Wind Earth, which has Ranger instead, I would probably put this as a 3. But yeah, it's actually not that bad, honestly. Might become a 3 depending if it becomes that important for like Mono Wind, but yeah. Ninja. He probably gets a 2, I assume. Yep. It's just a weird Firion. Like, I was never a big fan of that Firion anyway, and this is a more situational, however, stackable. By stackable, I mean you can play more than one of it version. So it's probably better for that reason, but worse because it's situational, and we're kind of past the time when this effect is that good. Ninja. The Bartz, sorry. He gets a 4. Because... Not really for rapid fire. So this card, you can basically treat it as if it doesn't have rapid fire. It's a very funny thing if it goes off, and it's a nice kind of like acute style points, but it's almost never going to happen in the way you want it to. But this is good just as an effectively 1 cost 7k with those specials is very hard to trade with. So it's basically like a really solid 1 cost forward. That yeah, it's just hard for your opponent to battle that at all, and it also has the kind of removal on the 5k. So yeah, if you just pretend rapid fire doesn't exist and look at the card that way, it's actually pretty solid. Bartholomew, he gets a 2. Only because Hope is not very good at the moment. As soon as we get a good Hope, this card becomes much better. Other than that though, it's whatever. Like a neg 1 cost backup is very good, but the fact to play the 4 cost Hope, you also have to play Alexander's, which also aren't that good, and then the Hope doesn't actually really do anything while it's on the field because it's kind of weak. Yeah, it's just... Yeah. We need better Hopes. Winter Drake gets a 3 because it's just the 2 cost backup is decent. It's an EX, which is good, and it's 2 cost backup, and it does something semi-relevant, but, you know, whatever. There's not much to say about this card. This Hope. This is the one you're probably going for if you're playing Bartholomew, but it's kind of a lot of things to go right just to have a 9k competition on my abilities when you can, you know, kind of do that with Ranger and Arc, or like something like that, like Riku, even the Gull Wings. But yeah, it's just probably too much effort to make go off. Rem, she gets a 1. She probably deserves a 2, honestly, but I'm going to give her a 1 because they gave her the wrong name. And cadet support randomly out of nowhere. It's not even what they need at all. So screw around. Asmodai, he gets a 4. Just the solid card, Mono Earth. Unfortunately, Mono Earth, maybe still not that good. Maybe it is now, I don't know. But this card is very solid. If you have the LCP lying around to do it. That's all there's to say about it, really. Vanille, she also actually gets a... Let me have a look at my list. She gets 3. Almost a 4. Obviously, you combo her with cards that let you see the top card of your deck. There are more of those now, noticeably more of them. The Legend Unit is an example, but you know we've also got the Yule from before, and there's other weird stuff like Seymour, Oracle. So it's definitely much more likely to go off now than it would have been in previous sets, and it's decent. However, she does have the name Vanille, and I really like the Opus 1 Vanille at the moment, so for that reason, I'm probably not going to be playing her, but if it wasn't for that, then I would be messing around with her. I actually think she's decent. Carbuncle. Gets a 3. It's because it's a 2-cost backup. Has a kind of effect that almost never is relevant, but maybe will be one time. Lets you leave CP open during your opponent's turn and then play this end of their turn. Lets you play a 3-cost backup on your first turn if they go first, but all of that super situation doesn't happen very often. Normally you just play it as a vanilla 2-cost backup. Galuf, he also gets 3. This is actually one of my least favorite legends in the set. It's just kind of a little bit underpowered, doesn't do anything when it enters, even when it, again, its effect is on attack, which is the hardest trigger to resolve, and even then, the fact that it doesn't, they have to have an active forward for it, like the forward has to be able to block for you to get the value out of this effect, and you have to pay for it. So yeah, it's decent. I'm glad there is another target for Tama, full value target for Tama, but I think it maybe is not quite good enough at the moment. Cryo, she gets a 4. She's actually very decent. Untargetable by abilities, effectively, is quite solid, as we know, but the fact that it's like a will they, won't they type thing, you can actually take resources away from your opponent while being untargetable by abilities, that's actually pretty solid. And then she's just got another bunch of cute stuff that, fits in like decks with weird off-color summons or whatever. But yeah, honestly not bad. The fact that she's a Warrior of Light is a big deal, by the way. Sorry, that's probably what pushes her to a 4 from a 3, is the fact she's Warrior of Light. She's a full value Warrior of Light for Sarah FFL. Yeah. Oh my god. Kolka. She gets 3. There's nothing to say really. It's just a generic searcher, which is good. Yeah. Zagna, he gets 2. Like 2 cost 9k. It's weird. It doesn't have Brave. It's weird the Fire one got Brave, not this one. But yeah, it's not that easy to resolve. But maybe Ildark, you can have a reliable way to keep getting it out. But yeah, probably too much effort. Shantoto, she also gets 2. Unfortunately, it's called Shantoto. Again, if it was a different name, it might have some cute uses, but pretty much any deck that you would want this in, you're probably just playing the other one. Summoner. For some reason, they made a dual element Earth, the Ultimecia mannequin. Like, this is literally the Ultimecia mannequin, but harder to resolve, but it's in Earth. Whatever. What did I even give it? I've already forgotten. I think I gave it a 2, probably. Yep. Zazat. He gets 2 as well, because that is like Dataluma, but worse. That's like a fair Dataluma, which means it's not very good. Yeah. Kelga, though, it's a decent sized Kelga target. It's on color as well for Earthwind, which is the one that you'll be playing Kelga with because of Star Sibyl. But yeah. Tama. She gets 2 as well, only because right now there is not really... Earth doesn't have the category of off cards you want for this. The category of cards that are good are in Fire at the moment, and yeah, that's about it. Tilika, she also gets 3 actually, only because she does enable some weird decks, and I'm kind of a sucker for like being able to mess around with a lot of different light and dark cards, because one of my issues with light and dark cards has always been each one that comes out has to be really good or have a really important use to see play, only because it's always competing for like 1 or 2 slots in a deck. But Tilika lets you kind of mess around with a lot more of those, so that's cute, and I like that. But she probably deserves a 2, because being a 5k forward is like under curve and it doesn't do anything else, but whatever. Necromancer, at the moment it gets a 2, will go up to 3 if there's ever good enough standard units. Let me know when they release a Viking that is a combined form of all 3 of the others, because that will be absolutely nuts with this, or probably just nuts in general. But yeah, until we get a decent big standard unit, it's not very good. Noctis, he gets a 4 because he's very solid. I think most people realize this. Like, there's not much to say about that really. He's just a very decent card. It staves off aggression, especially like Turbo Discard with his kind of his effect is sort of like Cecil, but he doesn't share the name, so you can have both of them, and you also don't clash with the legendary Cecil. And the EX is a really funny high roll EX as well, but the fact that you can have the Noctis out and trigger that yourself, so if you're on 5, you can use your own damage effect like Cactuar or Fasoy or whatever to go to 6 and get the 2 breaks. And having that protection effect can be nice in like weird combat situations as well, so yeah, just a solid card all around. Bahamutian Soldier gets a 2 because it's a vanilla, it's just a 2-cost vanilla, nothing else really. Situational 7k is not even that good. Geomancer, the reprint for the set of Black Belt, gets 2 as well because whatever. Frisch, she gets a 3 only because if you do get her going, she's very solid, and the fact that you don't actually have to play her cheap, you don't have to play a lot of Frisches to play her cheaply because you can just bring her out off of the 6-cost one or the 2-cost one. So actually decent in that regard. Yeah, so just alright, but you probably a deck based around her is probably not that great unless you have like some other stuff going for it. Flan, that's mainly because it's double freeze, by the way. Flan is ice support in Earth. For some reason, they gave the special monster in Earth to ice, effectively, because it's called Flan. They could just call it Flander and not had that happen, but yeah. So yeah, this is basically 3 extra copies of Flan to search with the Ice Flan, and it lets you splash Earth cards like Shantoto and Wald, which is very good in Ice, but yeah. Outside of that, whatever, who cares about the activate effect? And again, it's even more ice supporty because then it's like a Sid Waff thing as well. You can use it to push like some lost attacks through or whatever, but you probably don't need to do that in ice. And then its discard effect is kind of funny, decent combat situations, but in ice you're never blocking, so that's whatever. Moogle FF. Oh, I didn't even rate it. Sorry, I rate that Flan a 3 because of the ice synergy. Moogle FFC. That's a 3 as well. It probably deserves a 2, but again, I'm a sucker for the kind of cute stuff you can do with these things. It opens up a lot of possibilities. But yeah, being a 4-cost backup that's blank is awful. But yeah, the stuff you can do with Rainbow CP in a Moogle deck, especially because, you know, Sarah... Normally, Sarah locked you into Ice plus one other element, but now you've got access to all whatever element you want. So whatever cards you specifically need for your Moogle deck, you can now access because of this card. But yeah. Monk. This is probably a 1. Let's have a look at what I put down. Yep, that's a 1. Yeah, not much else to say. Yojimbo, he actually gets a 4. This is probably the best, sorry, the second best of the EX summons. It's the second most castable. So there are basically 2 of them that I would cast that I'm not unhappy to cast normally in some situations. This is one of them. You know, it's got the Titan effect where you can kind of use it to win a combat as well. Well, not really win, but you can use it to take out 2 things at once effectively. But yeah, very solid on EX. And yeah, just the fact that it's good as really good as an EX, but also decent as a castable card is nice. Red Mage. This is probably a 2. Yep, that's 2. Because bouncing things is not that great. Bouncing 3 or less, restricted to 3 or less, is much worse, because often 3 or less characters are ones that had some kind of enter, like Viking, or like just not efficient. Basically, Stoll is the only card that you'll regularly be seeing that would be fine to bounce with this. Its other effect is actually decent. The Odining something for 2 CP is actually solid, but unfortunately it's attached to a very awkward enter ability. Arky, she gets a 2 as well. I don't know. They're really trying hard to push Lulu Heroic this set. Even in a Lulu H deck, this card is it's not doing anything that you really want. Maybe, I don't know. Like maybe getting a summoner out is okay, but yeah, it's just a weird card. X-Death. He gets a 4 probably. Yes, because this card has got quite a big ceiling. You know, you played as your 5th backup, you're playing a -1 cost backup, and the fact that you can toolbox your entire break zone and your opponents is super cute. So yeah, I actually like this card quite a bit, but it's kind of hard to mess around with and fit in, so we'll see. Gilgamesh, I also give this a 4. I think the fact that I don't think, again, you don't have to be doing a all-in Gilgamesh deck to make this card good. I think even just as 3 of in your deck, as a 4k floater that gets bigger each time it floats, you know, it goes up with Lulu as well, that's just decent by itself. And also the fact you can combo with cards to buff it, to get that 10k off, is cool as well. Like Kefka is a simple example because then it replaces itself at the end of the turn as well. And then in Earth as well, you've got stuff like Black Belt, which I think that's something that I thought of, that I've seen some Gilgamesh Kefka type decks, but I haven't seen anyone else playing the Black Belt yet, which is a 2-cost backup in Earth that gives something 5,000 until the end of turn on entry, which is really cute with this kind of thing as well. And then Gipple, of course, Wall, Carbuncle, all these stuff. Like, that kind of stuff's really cool. Coel also gets a 3. Cactuar Killer in the color that doesn't need it, but you can splash it in other decks. And the funniest thing is, the deck that it's most relevant to splash in is also the deck that loses most to Cactuar, which is Ice. And so that the fact that Ice has a card, Sidwaff, that makes this card not blank if they don't have the Cactuar is really funny. And like, again, it's just another thing that Ice just gets out of nowhere. And it's like, I don't know if the developers see these things happening, but yeah. Ice is the color that wants this card, the non-lightning color that wants this card, and it also has a card that makes it much better. So yeah, interesting. But anyway. Gladiator. This card is absolutely blank. Awful, terrible, no use whatsoever. Again, funny that it's... Oh, it's not a rare, sorry, thank God. But yeah, terrible. Emperor. This gets a 4 at the moment. Could possibly go to 5 if it is as good as it feels to me right now. This card, underrated for sure. I think it's very, very good. Giving Orphan to Lightning is a mistake. It's obviously it's not quite Orphan. However, in the way that it's not Orphan, where it doesn't keep freezing things, it doesn't need to, because in Lightning, once you've dulled 2 of their things, you probably just kill them. You probably just win the game. Because you've got haste cards like Elua and Estinian, and Red Mage gives things haste that are, Elua's hard to deal with. You've got stuff like Twilight Odin. This card enables Twilight Odin like nobody's business, and Twilight Odin is very, very good when you can push it through easily. So now you don't have to play with Ice, basically. Yeah, this card, very solid. So far, the 3K has not done much for me at all, but, it's cute against Layla Viking, I guess. And maybe there's some cute stuff you could do, like trading up and things, if there's enough 4s on the board. But yeah, just dull 2 on entry 9K is, like, very solid. Bankrit. He probably gets a 3, but he probably deserves a 4 just because he actually buffs Silence quite a bit. A lot of people gloss over this. They're like, oh, it's not as good as the other Thancred's good. Like, this one's not that great and stuff. But no. This Thancred is way better than the other Thancred. Like, the other Thancred is actually not very good. You played him because he's a Silent. Obviously, you had to. I'm not saying you would ever have not played him before. But now that this Thancred's out, you definitely play this one over the 4 cost, because the 4 cost doesn't actually do anything. And I know that people feel like its body being decent size and, kind of annoying to remove is good, but those games you probably won anyway, because that body was not what was winning you the game, right? So Scions, what wins you the game is getting value out of Yida and Ishtola. So killing things with those, and Urianger now as well. So those cards are the ones that give you your win in Scions. Just bodies is whatever, and you've already got the massive body of Yida. But yeah, this having on-entry effect, not only that, but also being 1 cheaper, so you get more Scion names out for less. Very, very good. Is a buff to Scions again. You should definitely playing this over the other one. No one can contest my opinion of that. Like, no one will be able to convince me otherwise. And I've played new Scions, and this one works way better, especially because it enables Yida as well. It's like a named Amon, basically. But yeah. Zapped. This gets a 4. Because this card is the best of the Wolf monsters, because Ramu is the best of the summons that get searched by them. Ramu is basically a staple in Lightning, and this card searches it. Not only that, the new Ramu, the EX Ramu, which I'll talk about, is the best of the EX summons as well. And this card, not only that, this also, you can get it out with Urianger. So this card is actually another buff to Scions. Because it is a very solid card to bring out the Urianger. It's another body. You get 2 bodies for very cheap. And that body replaces itself into a removal spell. Lets you push things through. It's just super duper all round solid. Seymour. He gets a 3. There is some cute things you can do. It's actually not bad. It's just a gym. You don't even have to play like a deck based around it. It is actually okay. It's just a 2-cost backup that basically reads your opponent, can't attack you next turn. Although you do have to play some kind of EX summon. You've got the Ramu now, which you can just slot in easily. But if you play Odin, that's fine as well. It's the fact that it's EX as well is funny, because sometimes you'll just hit as EX and then your opponent will be able to attack you for the rest of that turn either. And the special, if it goes off, if you like Raiden someone, that'd be sick, but then again you have to be playing Raiden, so you're probably not going to do that. But maybe it works out for an Odin one time. It's like a 6-cost backup that breaks something. That's, that's fine. Sid Previa. this card, I'm going to give it 4. Very, very, very good. Very high rolly, though. But yeah, if this goes off early, especially, you're probably winning that game. You get so much value. So you basically play a 0 cost and a 2 cost backup turn 1, assuming you play one of the searches, which Lightning has lots of. Of course, you can play Lulu as well, but that's still really solid because it's as if your Lulu costed 2. If you play Luizio out with it, then you've got your 2 cost backup for turn 3 to play off of that because you've got your 2 backups out already. And then it also has an effect that lets it break itself for some reason. So very, very good. However, it does mean you have to build your more 3 cost backups into your deck, and when you start saturating your deck with backups, especially when when all of them are unique, then you start seeing hands where you draw a bunch of backups that you can't do anything with, and if you don't see this card to get the value and kind of offset that, then maybe you are in a worse position because of it. But yeah, no, this is probably the one legend in the set that gets a 2. This card is like, I want to believe it's better than it is, but it's just not. Like, if it only when it entered did the 3k and haste, but then still had that effect for the rest of the turns, then it would be good. But the fact that after the turn you play it, it's just a 6k vanilla, that's terrible. Obviously, when you play it, you intend to kill something, but you know, these days forwards most of the time there's like little bodies lying around that you probably just block with, like a Leia Viking, whatever. And the other thing is, this is basically like a worse version of a Red Mage Twilight Odin. Now, obviously, Twilight Odin costs 1 more because of the having to transform it, but that card is also much better while it's on the field and better overall. You play it whenever you need to, and it threatens them and everything. Like, yeah, this card, there's no room for this card right now. Barbara, she gets a 3 because she is okay by herself as a 4 for 7k haste, but also enables Estinian off of 4 backups. So if you get to 4 backups, you can play this Barbara, swing for the damage or whatever, and then next turn you can threaten an Estinian that can activate itself and attack again for the 1 discard. Because usually at 5 backups, the 5th backup does nothing when you Estinian them because, you know, it's hard to find something to do with that 1 CP. But yeah, this lets you do it at 4, so that's cool. And also makes it a little bit harder to remove. So for stuff like Cloud of Darkness or, like, you know, burn effects, this can actually protect your Estinian from those. Flanborg, he gets a 2 because he's the only militarized Flan currently. If there were more militarized Flan or different militarized Flan, then this might be better. It's actually kind of cool as, like, you know, floaty sort of cheap body. But yeah, just it's too much stuff has to go right for it to go the way you want it to. Cannoneer. A lot of people don't realize this is not a reprint. This card is different to the other one. So the old one is sacrifice a backup and pay 2 and tap itself. This one is sacrifice a forward and pay 1. Now, that doesn't seem like that big a deal, but this is an on-color. This is the first Lightning card that can sacrifice a forward for some beneficial effect. So this enables Golbez. It enables Golbez mainly. But also, sorry, Zac and Angeal as well. So you can finally, in your Lightning Fire deck with like Zac, Angeal, Cloud, whatever, you finally have an on-color way to sacrifice those for a beneficial effect, which is what you want with those kind of cards. But yeah, again, also on-color Golbez. So you can actually play some funny mono Lightning deck with Golbez in it and like just some randy 2-cost off-color things to bring out with it. You know, mess around with that, whatever. But yeah, kind of hidden value of that card. I gave it a 3 for that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Mystic Knight, this is a reprint. This gets a 2. Whatever. Midprevia, this card gets a 3, bordering on a 4. It's the kind of card you just chuck in your break zone at some point, and then at some point in the game, you get to basically play a Raubarn on an active forward without having to have a forward of your own. So, you know, you're discarding 3 to play it out of your break zone, so you're basically discarding 2 and turning the 3rd card into Midprevia. What is cool, though, is you can discard light and dark cards for that. And you can split the damage as well. So if you're lucky enough for them to have, like, a field that you can split up the damage and take out 2 things at once, that's also really solid. So I'm going to give it a 4 now. I'm actually going to buff it to 4. I do like this card quite a bit. When I originally rated it, I hadn't messed around with that much, but yeah. The main problem is, though, it's like a summon slot, basically, for a backup. And it, you know, clogs your back row a bit because you can't get rid of it easily. But it is pretty solid. Lightning, she gets a 2 because there is not many... Basically, the only category 13 forward that you care about giving haste to that much is Sarah, the Moogle Sarah. That being said, can actually haste Twilight Odin, but that's quite expensive again. But anyway. Ramuh. Now, okay, this card gets a 4 now. Originally, on my original ratings, I rated it a 2 because it did not occur. I didn't comprehend, like I didn't understand in my head. Like I knew it lost 7,000 power, but that didn't register to me as it loses 7,000 power, as in you win any combat with this card. So it's basically like Matthias on a spot removal, and EX. So like the EX is very, very good. AK is going to kill a lot of things. You usually kill something with it if you hit an EX. But then even not on that, you can use this to kill Ishtola and Zidane, which are 2 cards that have typically been a problem for Lightning. Not unbeatable, but annoying to deal with. This card says, I don't care. It basically fills the role of Odin in that case, unless they have Maria. Even then though, just the fact that your opponent can't really battle you if you have this card up, and it's Ramuh, so it's searchable with Zapped. Yeah, very good for it's the best EX summon set by far. Ronzo, he gets a 2 because it's just kind of that would have been quite good back earlier, like Opus 3 maybe. But yeah, it's kind of an outdated mechanic now. Still cool, like still decent card, but yeah, probably not that great. Dragoon, this also gets a 2, I believe, because Wind Lightning. There is some cool stuff you can do, but in my opinion, a lot of the stuff in Wind Lightning is not what this card helps with. So the stuff I like with Wind Lightning is things like protecting Xenos with Ishtola, using Urianger with Bartz and Ishtola. It's kind of combo-y sort of cute stuff, and this card doesn't support any of that. It's obviously an aggro card. There is Lightning Wind stuff you can do with aggro, but you're probably... Those 2 colors are probably better off doing it with different colors. So the wind, the chocobo stuff is probably better off with water, where you've got stuff like Andoria. Whereas the lightning part is probably better off in mono, because that can still be quite aggressive. Anyway. Acreus. This, like, I'm going to give it a 3, only because it's quite decent if it goes off decently. But there is so many things you have to... So much has to go right for you just to be average. It's like basically a 1 cost 7k at best, which is whatever. We have like Fame and Goga, right? Like that's whatever. The fact that the amount of stuff you have to put into it to make that happen reliably, the fact that you have to play multiples of this because you have to see it early, or it does nothing later, because if you whiff this, if you have characters out already and you hit the same name character you already have, it's awful. But not only that, you have to play a decent amount of 3 costs to make it high roll enough. It's just so many things you have to do to get this to work. So it's probably my second worst legend in this set. It's definitely, bottom 3 for me are probably Galuf, this, and Null. But yeah. Gawain. Whatever, it's a 2. It's just a whatever card. Kumari. Kumari is also a 2. If the Guardians were better, it would be higher, but the Guardians are not better. And the fact it has no protection itself, and it's a 6 cost, so it's, Diablos, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the Guardians suck. You have to play bad cards to play it, and it's not a high reward for playing it. This is a reprint of Astrologian, so I'm giving it a 1, because everyone knows how much I hate that card and think it's terrible. Sahagin. This gets a 3, because there is cool stuff you can do with it. Right now, there's better things Water can be doing most of the time, I think. But this card is still cool. Mirror is the main thing with this card. There's really cute stuff you can do with that, because you can activate the mirror herself, and you can kind of chain them into each other, paying 1 for each time. But if you've got a dull ability on top of that, you can basically do a dull ability 3 times for like really high value. So something like Mog, which is in water, is like draw a bunch of cards. And then the discard effect is kind of funny. You could use it like Protect Leo, or, bounce your Viking, draw a card. It's like, it's fine, I don't know. Geos Gain, I think it's 2, because this is the worst of the permanent transformers for sure. Because, yeah, bouncing is not that good, like we've talked about. It just is not great these days. And, yeah, you have to bounce to make good. Its effect is, like, very average. If it was 2k instead, it would be much better, but it's not. So, White Mage also gets a 2. Again, there's cool stuff. It's like Sahagin on a body, basically, but then it doesn't have all the combo potential with Mirror and anything like that. So, yeah. Styx, she gets a 2 as well, because, again, bouncing is not that good. If bouncing was good, this card would be higher, but it's not. Special is actually okay. Being tied to the 5 damage is makes it worse for sure. And the fact you have to play lots of these cards to make it go off is, yeah, annoying. Yeah. Sarah FFL gets a 3. I'm very tempted to give her a 4. In fact, I do have her as 4. Because, yeah, she's a effectively 1 cost backup, but the cards she gets out are quite good, especially Wall. But yeah, being able to get out Kryl, Wall, like I said. Faris, if you have enough 5 characters, is on color, and that's good too. The fact that you can't get the light ones is fair enough, because that would be really good. But yeah, very decent. The fact she's a Warrior of Light herself helps enable the Light Warrior of Light and Sarah Mobius. But yeah. Oh, and Aegis as well. So being able to toolbox Aegis to get the 2 costs out of your hand is also solid. Dusk, this card. This is my favorite Warrior of Light in the new set. So yeah, this is very solid Warrior of Light support. This is the kind of support that jobs need to be decent. Like if Guardians or something like this, they'd be much better. So it's basically a 1 cost 6k, very decent, and the ability is actually really like much better than I originally thought, because this is the first time we've been able to modify the cost of any summon, so not restricted to an element, any summon, and not even have it be immediately. So the fact that you can, if your opponent uses some kind of removal or dulls it or whatever, you can stack this, and then for the rest of the turn they have to play around you having summons that cost 1 less, even if he's dead. And yeah, it's cool. Like I like it a lot. It gets a 4, by the way. Yeah, Titus also gets a 4, because he's very good, but very telegraphed is the problem. However, Yuri is in this set, and Yuri can make him not telegraphed, because you would be leaving backups open for Yuri anyway, and then, surprise, it's Titus. But even when he's telegraphed, though, he's still decent for sure. It can be a deterrent, and in fact, that can actually work in your favor. You can actually not have the Titus and telegraph it, and have your opponent not attack you because of that, which is quite good. So yeah, just in general, the impact this has on your game as water is beneficial to you. So, a buff to mono water's already a good deck, fair enough, probably gets a 4. This Titus also gets a 4. May be a little bit surprising, but bouncing any character you control, not being stuck to a backup is the important part here. It's on a big body. 9k is a benchmark for sure. 9k is the first above 8k that's like very relevant. And yeah, it doesn't clog up your back row. You can use it to combo stuff like Viking, especially. The fact that this is in the same color as Viking and Layla, so being able to bounce your Viking back, you draw a card and then play it again, you draw another card. Like, that's a lot of kind of value you can do and offset the 4 cost of this. So you're basically playing a cheap 9 cost in that case. But yeah, also do cool stuff where you bounce back up so you have an effect that you want, and you don't have to invest it straight away. Yeah, it's just really cool. Ninja. Ninja gets a 3, actually. This is one of the better of the dual element standard units, because of the bounce effect. So that's actually really cool. This is the first forward, I'm pretty sure, we have that can bounce itself like that, and just kind of dodge stuff. Because Onion Knight's the other one, but Onion Knight is only during your turn. So that's cool. And yeah, the Water Fire is the kind of deck that wants this kind of effect, so that works in your favor as well. So decent support for that combination. Halicarnassus gets a 4. This guy's very good. Blanking things has been restricted to Minerva in the past as the only real forward that can do that. This doesn't target either as well, just like Minerva, which is very, very good. So you can turn off the untargetables with it. That's super important, especially when water is the best color for Fusoya. This can let your Fusoya kill stuff like Zidane, Ishtola. You can interact with Dudaluma a lot easier when it's under Halicarnassus, although Halicarnassus is probably going to die in that case. But yeah, it's action ability as well. Actually relevant, by the way. Maybe not as relevant in a lot of the currently top tier decks. Just chucking it in, you're probably not going to see the action ability go off as much, but you can definitely push your deck more in that direction and have that be a legitimate threat. So yeah, very solid card. Faris gets 3. Unfortunately, you have to play enough Category 5 characters to support it, but if you are playing enough Category 5 characters, and especially if you're playing Lena as well, that's actually very solid. It's basically like, this is Knight power level, by the way. If you have Lena out, this is a 2 cost 8k goes to 9 counter Waka, and yeah, the Category 5, you can get to the Lena with it, which is also solid. So yeah, actually pretty decent. Being a Warrior of Light as well, very important job. Braska, he gets 2. Only because we don't have enough summoners yet for it to be really good. We do have, the summoners we do have are actually very solid and almost push it into playability range, but not quite there yet. Yuna, Echo, Seymour are the main ones, by the way. Len as well from Opus 1, but that backup is not very good, but if you played it with this, it'd be 1 cost, so it'd be better. Anyway, mine gets a 1. Awful. It's a bad Gipple, right? Yagrosh. Card itself gets a 2, but enabling Sid 2 to have 9 targets in a dual color deck turns it up to a 3. The card itself is actually not that great. Again, being restricted to backups only means you can't develop your backups with it. You're always replacing one unless you're playing a turn 1. And bouncing a backup is much harder to get the full value again than if you are bouncing a forward like Viking, for example. Oracle gets 3. It's category 5. That's very important. This is probably the best water category 5 backup 2 cost. And its effect is just decent. Like, that's actually fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that effect at all. Leviathan. Leviathan gets a 2. Tempting to go to 3 only because the support, because of Minwu, basically. Legendary Minwu. This is the best water summon to go with him, in my opinion. A lot of the other water summons don't really work out too well with that Minwu. This one's basically like, you get the same benefits as the other Leviathan, but the EX is stronger on top of that. The being restricted to 4 or less basically doesn't matter, and because you're cheating the cost, that's fine. So yeah, that's the main use of this card. Other than that, it's whatever. Waka, he's a Guardian, so you play him in a Guardian deck, but Guardian's not very good as we've talked about, so yeah. Yuna gets a 3. Originally, I didn't rate her as highly. Originally, I was like, not that great, but the more I think about it, the more I play with it, I'm like, this is actually quite a solid card. Recurring, basically 1 cost 6k, so you pay 1, bring her back, so then you go +1, but then you pay 2 to play her, so you go -1. So you pay 1 CP to play 6k basically over and over again. But the fact that it's constantly enabling your Ultima to be cheaper, basically once you've got this card out in the break zone, the field, whatever, your Ultima is always going to be cheaper when you need it, and the summon effect can randomly high roll people, like the first action ability. If you have enough summons in your deck, you can actually hit some silly things with that. Like, you know, Hecaton's like a nice neutral one as well. Kind of funny, but yeah. Oops. Yeah, here we go. Welcome to number 5. The second 5 out of 5. In fact, this is the only 2 5 out of 5s in the entire set, in my opinion. But this card definitely deserves this. It is absurd. It is the best, probably the best card in the set. And I think, unfortunately, unlike Layla last set, this is really obvious. Like, most people realize how good this card is. Most people realize the stupid stuff it can do. Being able to, you know, all those effects, like that, it has enough different effects that there's basically no board. If this card is alive, you are winning the game. Like, you have to kill this card or you will probably lose. Like, there is no board this card doesn't solve for you. For the owner of Yuri can basically solve any board state with this card. Dull and Freeze, you can just, you know, turn off their board. You can be the aggressor whenever you want. If the 4Ks, you can just, you know, you like Data Luma in that case. Obviously much more expensive, but you can just generate removal, ping off things, and it helps you trade up as well. Super important. Then, of course, if nothing's happening, whatever, it's got the passive draw a card on top of that, so you don't actually have to be doing anything to be getting value out of it. There's, like, you know, in whatever situation, at worst, you still draw a card, which is the best neutral effect. And then, for some reason, it can turn off abilities as well. Doesn't come up that often, but definitely can. Like, self-buff forwards, in particular, like Knight, they have a hard time against Yuri. Leo, Yida, those kind of cards. So yeah, very, very ridiculous card. Does way too much, probably. And the supporter has as well on top of that, like Shalinka, Alhanalem, really pushes it over the edge. So yeah, watch out for this card. Galdies, he gets a 4. Very solid card. Very decent body. It's now competing with a lot of competing with a lot of line dark cards, as always dark cards are. But it is a nice. It's the first kind of generic dark character you chuck with your Cam and Chaos that is just good in any situation. You know, before we had Shadow Lord, which was very good in some situations but very average in others. Whereas this card is just good all round. Very solid card, decent card having the board whenever you want. Yeah, just solid. Sin, he gets a 3. Mainly, Gig Graviton, I don't ever see resolving ever in any legitimate game. You can, meme people if you have that opportunity, but it's probably never going to happen in a game that actually matters. On entry, though, very real. Any deck has access to a board clear now with this, potentially. And the fact that it kills monsters is a super big deal too. So that any deck can have an answer to the inevitability of Cactuar Yataluma, which is cool. And we also have a lot more support for getting light and dark cards out of our hand now if we need to. So definitely could see play and can actually catch people out. Starter cards, Ultimecia. This card gets a 3. Very close to a 4, but not really. I say that originally in my head it was close to a 4, but then as I played it I realized it's more of a 3. Just freezing backups is a decent base case, especially reviving this with the 4-cost Eddie. And so in Opus 6 I thought the backup Eddie was garbage. With this card it's probably a lot better and maybe playable, but probably still not top tier. But yeah, getting to 6, so if you get to 6 damage, if you enable that yourself with a Soar or something, then the effect can be really devastating. But again, we have Orphan. Anyway. Emperor, he gets a 4. He was close to a 5 as well, honestly. This is a 2-cost backup that Ice didn't deserve. They have enough good 3-cost backups. Why do they deserve these good 2-cost backups as well? This card is very, very solid. There's basically no reason not to be playing it. The EX is just icing on the cake. Even if it didn't have that, it would still be super relevant. This action ability is something Ice shouldn't have access to, especially with Snow now. So Ice can basically on-demand spot remove anything they need to. And again, it lets you cycle light and dark cards out of your hand as well if you have to. So yeah, it does a lot of good things, and Ice don't really deserve that, but here we are. Cecil, he gets a 3. Decent. Unfortunate name. Cecil is it's in wind, so if you're not playing Earth, then that name doesn't matter, so that's fine, that's cool. But in an Earth wind, that is probably going to clash. Being an EX is cute. It can stop your opponent attacking for the rest of the turn, or give you some kind of backup-y shenanigans, I don't know. But yeah, decent when you get to 5 damage, but the fact that you have to get there first for it to be decent, we'll see. Ishtola, she also gets 3 because the card itself is actually quite decent, but this time the name is a huge drawback. There's basically no situation you don't want the Legend Ishtola in your wind deck. It's by far like the best overall wind forward in the game. So yeah, you're probably not going to be playing this for that reason alone. Still though, it's cool. It's a decent card. Garland, he gets 2. I've had people mention this card and saying, oh, it seems alright, it seems decent or good. They even want to play it, but I don't see any situation I'd ever want to play this card in my deck. This is like an Opus 2 card. It's just a vanilla. It's not even brave. Yeah, it's just not good. What the hell? This card's terrible. Not terrible. No, it is pretty bad. Honestly, I don't ever see myself playing this card. And Golbez, he gets a 2. Definitely do see myself playing this more than I would Garland, but again, in the way the game is these days, if you've got to the point, the grind game or whatever, it doesn't really happen that often. You can't rely on that happening. So most of the time, this card is going to be blank. Still though, if you are getting big break zone for whatever reason somehow, this card is actually quite good. As your break zone gets to 20 cards plus, this card's actually very solid value. But yeah, it's just not going to happen often enough for it to be worth playing. I think that's the entire set. Thanks for watching. Sorry, it's very, very long. And I tried not to waffle on, but I realized I probably did, unfortunately. I didn't want to spend time on cards that I didn't care about, but then I did, because I just do that out of habit. But yeah, I'm going to, I'm talking now, obviously. I've made this before Worlds, but I'm not going to release until after Worlds, because I don't want people knowing, the stuff I've been thinking about, whatever. It's just yeah, but here we are now. So thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.